Arash Madani joining us. A lot to get to today, Arash, and a lot of different topics. Let's start with the unfortunate passing of Ozzy Osbourne at 76 years. Do you have a favorite Ozzy Osbourne song? Are you a big Black Sabbath guy?
No, but I mean, Crazy Train is Crazy Train, isn't it? I mean, let's be real. That's the go-to Ozzy Osbourne song. So that's what I think of right away, Barney.
Sports anthem, right? Like that would have to be top 10, maybe top 5 sports anthems.
Yeah, like you go, We Will Rock You and the rest. That's right there. That's right there with all of them. There's no question.
Is 76 years old. Like I mentioned on the show earlier, I thought Ozzy was a lot older than that. Obviously, Parkinson's. Sure. It's sad that that guy lived a life, though, right? That's all you want at the end of it. When you shut her down, you want to say, I put in a solid life here.
Yeah, that's a hell of a shift. He did a lot of living in those 76 years. I bet he had a few close bouts with death along the way, too. I'm going out on a limb here, I know. But
yeah,
if that's the way you're going to go at 76, well done, sir.
The Riders moving things indoors today. It's smoky in Regina again today. I know a lot of people are panicking. It's supposed to be smoky tomorrow again. And then hopefully things shift. But we got a new running back in the fold. What did you think before Mario Anderson and before we know what we know now? What did you think yesterday? Who are the Riders going to bring in?
Well, before we get to that, I just want to give a shout out to Kadeem Carey. Kadeem Carey has been a vet in the Canadian Football League. Kadeem Carey has had a lot of success with the Stampeders. He was vital in Toronto winning the Grey Cup last year, not just in the game, but just what he meant to that room, a vet, etc. And brutal injury. You wish him well. You hope that's not the end. I thought it was very fitting that he didn't want to go on the cart, and hope everything goes well with him in his recovery. Barney, I wasn't sure. I know you and I were texting about a few names in terms of who next man up is, but I'll tell you why I like the Anderson move. Because this train is going. Like, the Riders are rolling right now, and you want to just make sure that there's not going to be too much of a disruption. The fact that Mario Anderson was in training camp, the fact that he knows the people around the locker room, the fact that he was on the practice roster, the fact that he knows Mark Mueller's offense, the fact that it won't take long for him to pick up any kind of terminology, etc., it just kind of slides in. It's the epitome of the next man up mentality. So I don't know how many other comps were out there on the couch on the street, but that's why I like the move, and I think that's why they made the move that they did.
Comes in cheap, probably going to go back to the practice roster once Thomas the Train is ready to go, and he's probably fine with that. He's 24 years old. You never know. Maybe it all makes sense now. And I think we're all talking veterans and Walter Fletcher, and I thought maybe Hickson. And we also don't know how Hickson left last year or this year. We don't know how the relationship is there. So there's a lot at play. Regardless, the Riders have someone in the fold. Wouldn't it have been interesting, though, if it was if Harris said, I got a few plays in this body. I'm gonna come out of retirement for a couple of years. Wouldn't have that been something?
Yeah, I don't think Andrew does anymore. I think Andrew would probably be the first to tell.
Oh, I don't know.
I want to throw out another name here, and just hear me out on the rationale behind it. Mm-hmm. Spent time in Montreal, spent time in BC, a vet. Now William Stanback is in Ottawa. And it seems like the Red Blacks have an allergy to running the football, and they're on the long road to nowhere in the nation's capital. It wouldn't cost much for Jeremy O'Day to pull the trigger on making a deal like that, bring in a vet who knows the league, who's been through it, et cetera, add a little depth to the running back room, and especially if a guy like Anderson's willing to be on and off the PR, it just gives you another option. Now, look, there's a lot of time left before the deadline. A lot of things can happen, etc. But there's a name to me that when you talk about more and more, the running game is becoming important in Canadian football and the CFL game especially. So I look at that and I say to myself, you know what, Riders? He's not going to cost you that much. That could make a lot of sense, especially for a playoff push for a guy who's won a championship before.
Yeah, that's something to think about. American too, right? So, okay, let's go on to the game, or let's look back at the game in Vancouver. You called that game likely Corey Mace's best as a defensive game planner and defensive caller. Why?
Barney, sometimes when it just seems like a coach is in the opponent's head, that he almost is in lockstep knowing what's coming.
Winnipeg, Saskatchewan last year, like in the playoffs, that's what it felt like.
Right. Sure. It felt like a lot of that. What they had dialed up for Nathan Rourke, who for much of the game was never really into any kind of rhythm, I just thought Mace... And they just didn't keep doing the same things over and over again. And this is what I'm finding lately in the CFL, that within the game, we're not seeing as many adjustments as we used to. And I don't know what the deal is with that. I just thought Mace had an answer for everything that BC was going to bring to the table up until, until the game was over. But I just thought that was terrific. Rourke was not able to get into a rhythm. He was off balance. BC's offense really stagnated, and I just I give a lot of that game ball to Corey Mace.
What's your take on Nathan Rourke? He hasn't looked fantastic. Funny yesterday, where Luke says you can't play Edmonton every week. I don't know. He's missing throws. He's missing reads. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself. There's no doubt about that. What's your take on it? Is he going to bounce back? I know that's a tough question to answer, but what's your take on him?
Yes, the answer is I think Nathan Rourke's going to be just fine. I really do. I mean, he's been back in the league for less than a year. I think it's going to be okay. He's in a new system again with Buck Pierce. I think the bigger issue with Nathan Rourke, to be quite honest with you, is that offensive line. Nathan Rourke was under siege for a lot of that game, was never really able to get into a rhythm, etc. But I look around the league now too, Barney, and look, man, I just wonder, okay, Calgary's got itself a good quarterback situation. I think there is a legitimate question mark on what's going on in Winnipeg. I know Zach Collaros was back from injury, etc. at practice today, but just in terms of production, Zach's suddenly starting to look his age. Toronto's quarterback situation is a mess. Ottawa's quarterback situation is a mess. Davis Alexander, who knows when he's going to be back. Quarterback play in general is a bit of a problem. And excuse me, somebody was trying to FaceTime me there.
You skipped the dishes. Lucky Loggers are here.
Right. That wasn't Nathan Rourke, by the way. So I just look at it and I just think quarterback play is an issue. I think Rourke will be fine, but there's a lot more to it, and I think it really starts up front for BC.
It's not. It hasn't really gained steam yet. Maybe it has in certain areas. Riders are going to have some real questions when Kean Schaefer-Baker gets healthy and what they're going to do in the offensive with the receiving core and who's going to come in and who's going to go out and all that. How about Dante Myers kind of establishing himself as maybe the top threat for Trevor, maybe one of the top threats for Trevor Harris?
Just continues to make plays, continues to move the sticks. It's remember when, this is dating myself, when Buddy Ryan cut Chris Carter of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's like, well, all he does is catch touchdowns. Well, so does Myers. All he does is make plays. And I get it. As sports fans, we keep wondering, okay, what happens when this person comes back and how are they going to make this work? Often these things have just a way of figuring themselves out between injury, between production, between falling out of favor, etc. But then you get an opportunity, and here's a guy like Myers who just emerges. And here's what you're finding, Barney, more than anything else. When it really matters, when they need to make a play, Trevor Harris knows he can count on him. Mm-hmm. And that is so valuable for a quarterback. It's so valuable for Mueller, the play caller. It's so valuable for an offense knowing that is a real threat and a dude we can count on. So the Myers piece is just such an integral part of this Sask offense.
I love the pot stirring last week about Winnipeg. And I don't know if maybe that phone number was a 204 area code. The only 204 area codes I'm answering is if it's Silver Heights, by the way. But you you said Mike O'Shea, maybe it's the end of the line. The game has passed him by. I'm putting words in your mouth. I know that.
You really are.
For a lot of people, it seems nuts. 5 straight Grey Cup appearances. They're 3-2. Why do you feel that maybe end of the line-ish for Mike O'Shea?
So Mike O'Shea's been there a while. That's the first thing. And the message for any coach outside of Popovich and Belichick can sometimes become a little stale after a while. Even O'Shea's former coach, Don Matthews, that happened to him. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people get caught up in, well, they're 3-2, et cetera. And they talk about the Grey Cup appearances, sure. But let me remind you, Barney, that in the last 3 Grey Cups, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers lost to teams quarterbacked by McLeod Bethel-Thompson, Cody Fajardo, and Nick Arbuckle. Today they are backup, and would be backup if the Toronto starter was healthy. In each of those 3 Grey Cups they lost, Winnipeg was the favorite. In each of those 3 Grey Cups they lost, the Bombers led at the half. And so to me, it's also a residual. Like, okay, when you lose 3 in a row, do things start to kind of splinter? Do guys start asking questions? And then you get blown out by Calgary going into the bye, and then you get crushed again coming out of it. And I just kind of wonder, a room full of vets who are like, I don't have much time left. What's happening here? These are some of the things I wonder about.
Okay, when's his contract up? End of this season or what?
End of this season. End of this season. And so, like, yeah, you mentioned Andrew Harris earlier. Here's the other thing about the whole situation over there: how Andrew Harris was handled on the way out. The way people are treated on the way out should be, especially somebody from there who's helped you to a championship. That stuff matters. Like, why isn't Kenny Lawler a Blue Bomber? You know, he was in the building, he liked it there, et cetera, et cetera. You think Kenny Lawler helps that team right now? Then they go bring in this Mitchell guy who's not playing. I have no idea why at receiver. And I just look, winning solves everything. John Madden said it's the best deodorant. The problem is the Bombers aren't winning, and this is why questions like these, and you reverse back about things, and you just wonder, okay, what are the ramifications of the last 3 Novembers?
Speaking of winning or not winning, what's your take on what's going to happen in Ottawa? What's going on in Ottawa?
It's bad. It's really bad. And I'm not a hyperbole guy, but Barney, it feels hopeless. It really does. They're not. They can't. They have no deep passing game to speak of whatsoever. They are very predictable on offense. They are not running the football. The defense can only do so much. It's just not good, and there's not a solution to this. Like, you're 1-6 at the bye, and you say to yourself, okay, what do we do? If you fire the head coach, if you remove Bob Dice and put Rick Campbell in, does that make you better? I don't think so. You've already, just last year at the end of the season, you fired your defensive coordinator. Baron Miles is doing okay over there as a position coach in Calgary. Getting rid of the GM now is just disaster. That's not the right move. This was an Ottawa team that at the end of last season overvalued who and what they were just because they made the playoffs and just because they won a bunch of games at home. In reality, the roster wasn't good enough, and then they went and got younger on defense, and they became more predictable on offense. That is not, the formula for any kind of success.
Can the offense turn it around with what they have, and all, or are you sticking with hopeless?
Well, we'll see where Drew Brown is from the helmet-to-helmet hit he took coming out of the bye week. Is Drew Brown a starting quarterback, a franchise quarterback? I think that the answer to that question is TBD. But I just don't know how this gets better in Ottawa anytime soon with the way things are going.
Let's shift to baseball. I watched the last 3 innings again last night because I get home late, and the place is packed. They got a little too many drone shots. They got to just take down the drone shots a little bit, but it looks electric. They're 4 up. That city.
It feels like 2015 again. Not quite. Almost. And here's the thing, Vlad still hasn't produced, but they're getting it from everybody. Right. Davis Schneider, like the Yankees commit a couple of errors in an inning and Jays score some runs, but it comes after Davis Schneider had like a 14 pitch at bat or something like that. All the little things, the situational baseball, etc. they're doing. But Barney, it just feels like they can't lose right now. What an amazing aura of invincibility that must be for a team. And they just keep building more and more of a cushion. And I think you and I have talked about this. This is, if you follow baseball, if you're a Jays fan, if you're even a casual fan, here's why you should kind of buy some stock in this team right now. It's because nobody else in the American League has any kind of dominance. Everybody else in the AL has issues. They have warts. Their rosters aren't good enough. So this is gearing up for a really fun summer and a really good, compelling September for the Jays.
There's good value maybe at the Blue Jays plus 700 right now to win the American League.
I think that's tremendous value, and especially, Barney, for guys like you and me who enjoy the cash out option. If that rolls around in the middle of October, late October, you'll get some value there. Look, and I think it's important to point this out because 10 days from now, 9 days from now, you and I are going to be talking about what the Jays have added at the trade deadline. Yeah. This team is still in a position where they're going to improve. Bullpen is going to be front and center in terms of what they want to add there. Do they feel there's a starting pitcher out there that they're willing to put all their chips in the middle of the table on? Ross Atkins, the GM of this team, also has an expiring contract. This is their best opportunity at anything since this front office took over at the beginning of 2016. I think there's all the value in the world right now on it. It's worth it.
Okay.
Worth a sprinkle and a look.
I like that cash out thing too. I didn't even think of that. That's a veteran move by you. Okay. Lastly, I don't even know if you have any comments on this. Team Canada coaching staff announced for the Olympics hockey. John Cooper. It's basically the same coaching staff from the Four Nations. Anything surprise you there? I know there's a lot of people online. Paul Maurice and this and that and the other. But any comments on that?
No, I think that one thing that's important for people to understand, you can't bring an unlimited staff with you over to the Olympics. Everything is very tight. There are IOC, IIHF regulations, et cetera, how many staff members, coaching staff members, players. It's not like you can even bring an extra 4 or 5 guys for practice. So I appreciate what John Cooper's done. He's like, wait a minute, we won with this group at the Four Nations. We're going to bring the same equipment staff. We're going to bring the same trainers. We're going to bring the same coaches, and then we'll see about the players. So it's not one of those scenarios where let's load up the entire plane. You just have to roll with the numbers that you're given. And often at an Olympics, it's smaller than an event like the Four Nations because, the NHL runs one,
Yeah.
the IOC and the IIHF run the other.
RP was with me yesterday. We talked about the event coming up at the Royal Regina on August 28th. Couple of tables available, you and Bruce Boudreau. We talked to Bruce on Friday. Thanks for setting that up, by the way. And it was his apartment, the part of the movie Slapshot that I thought, where he's trying to get some rest before the big game and the bounty calls from Killer Carlson. So that was Bruce Boudreau's. And he wouldn't go into the Wayne Gretzky story because he wants to tell that at the event. So
I love it.
It's going to be so good. Great. Yeah, it's a
beauty. It's a beauty of a tale. I promise you that.
August 28th at the Royal Regina. Arash Madani, Bruce Boudreau. All right, buddy. Have a good night. We'll catch up on Thursday.
Thanks, Barney.